Moderator Gary Schmidt, please do call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Smith. First, apologies to all. We had some technical difficulties. We're now ready and live and ready for the meeting. Our staff support today, Christina Twilliger, Clerk to the Board, Sean Lilligren, County Counsel. Roll call on Zoom, Commissioner Savas.
Here.
In the hearing room, Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here. Commissioner
Shull.
Here.
Chair Smith.
Here. Thank you. I will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty for justice for all. Oh, thank you very much. We are holding this meeting in person and virtually. If you've joined us on the Zoom app for this meeting and are interested in providing public comment, we will prompt you regarding how to do that when the time is right. With that in mind, I would like to remind all participants, including staff, all elected officials, and members of the public, that Robert's Rules of Order will be enforced during this meeting. Gary, can you introduce the first item?
Thank you, Chair Smith. First, we have wildfire updates from Nancy Bush, Director of Disaster Management. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Gary, and good morning, Chair and Commissioners. Before I get into wildfire, I just want to mention a couple things about the winter ice storm. Our voucher program has now closed. That was for debris. We spent only around $40,000 on that particular program, so we're just taking a look at that and just trying to make sure that all the debris is getting cleaned up or there's resources to do that. FEMA, the public assistance meetings were all done this week here in Clackamas County. There were several, and they went very well. We've heard from our partners that they got a lot of good information from FEMA. FEMA's trying to get through this as quickly as they can so that they can send a recommendation to the governor about requesting a declaration. Also, Samaritan's Purse was volunteering to help Clackamas County residents clean up for ice storms. And they had a total of 29 work orders. 16 are completed, done by others. They had other CBOs come in, were 9, and they have 4 that are now ready to work. So there's a lot of stuff still going on with our ice storms as well. For our the wildland fire update, just to let everyone know, we do have our private property debris cleanup, which is now underway. ODOT asbestos sampling crews have completed sampling for 22 of our properties here in Clackamas County. Sample results have been returned for 19 of those properties, with only 1 property that has confirmed positive for asbestos and containing that material. 2 properties were chimney tipped prior for the debris removal, and they have a couple more chimneys to tip in the next couple of weeks as well, so they're getting that on there. And the debris removal contractor has received work orders for 3 properties here in Clackamas County, which is going to be started in the next 30 days. Also, Clackamas County is preparing a priority list for the ODOT hazardous tree assessment crews, so they know which roads to start on. So hopefully we'll see that tree removal starting pretty quickly as well. Last week, I mentioned about Highway 224 being closed, and I did find out that that is really due to dangerous trees. They're still removing trees and other debris from 224, which is why it continues to be closed. And it's due to practicality. It's like if they tried to open it, they would have to close it all the time again because of the large equipment that's coming in. Mm-hmm. And they do expect that the words were used midsummer before it may reopen.
Oh, good.
So, Gary, that is my report for wildland fire.
Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate that. Late last night, I received a letter from the Legislative Affairs Manager at AOC, Mallory Roberts, requesting, as chair, I sign on to a letter with 7 other counties to be sent to the House and Senate Wildfire Committee regarding the rebuilding of homes and building permits in the counties. And they're asking for 2 things from this particular committee. First is state resources to significantly improve our local capacity to accept, process, and issue building permits, and to undertake the related inspections and occupancy steps. This could be in the form of additional technical staff to support planning and building departments. Ideally, this capacity would extend to developing standards to improve the fire resiliency on the resultant building environment. Secondly, allow for the waiver of building permit fees. While counties wish to provide this benefit to our fire-impacted citizens, the financial burden to our already stressed budgets is significant. It may be that there is an ability to tie these projects together by offering a reduced or fully waived fee. They're asking for the legislature to fund that. Our staff moved quickly this morning in helping me give kudos to this letter. Our DTT staff is still giving us statistics on how much that would cost. I intend on signing this letter, especially in support of our other counties. For instance, Jackson County lost 2,364 homes due to the wildfire. Our nearest neighbor to the south, Marion County, lost 700 homes versus our 64. So I believe it's an incredible burden on the other 7 counties involved, and I do intend on signing this letter on behalf of Clackamas County in support of not only us, but our burdened counties who we are sisters and brothers with in AOC. The other counties are Lynn, Lane, Douglas, Jackson, Lincoln, and Marion. So I just wanted to give commissioners the update on that to let you know what was happening. And this letter, when it's finalized, will be sent to your emails. Just wanted to let the public know we are working here in Clackamas County. This Board of Commissioners is considering permit relief also. We're waiting for a report to come back from our building department on that. Thank you, Gary.
Very good. Thank you, Chair. Next, we'll move on to COVID-19 updates. Nancy will also present, and is Philip also?
Yes.
Philip Mason
should be-
Joyner,
yes.
Public Health Director for the county.
All right, thank you. So as Christina has pulled up our slideshow, I just wanted to mention something we just found out from FEMA. And in early April, they're going to begin providing some financial assistance for funeral expenses incurred after January 20th, 2020 for deaths related to coronavirus.
Wow.
So this is to help, relieve some of the stress and burden for those families.
Do they have a dollar amount
I
attached to that?
don't have a dollar amount at this, wait a minute. I'm sorry, the assistance is limited to a maximum financial amount of $9,000 per funeral and a maximum of $35,500 per application. So our medical examiner's office has this information as well, in case they have any of those deaths. We are communicating this from the county to the funeral homes here in the county as well, so that they know this and have the information. And I believe the state is also sending it out to all of the funeral homes. So I just wanted to mention that before we get into our statistics today. So here on the first slide, we have our total cases here are in the United States is 29,374,758. And we've had a total of 534,099 deaths. Oregon has 160,050 with 2,346 lives lost. Next slide, please. So here in Clackamas County, we're at 13,759 total cases with 196 deaths. And Multnomah County is 32,000 and almost 500, and with 556 deaths. And Washington County is 21,759 with 220 deaths. On the next slide, you'll see, again, as we talked about the last few weeks, we kind of keep seeing that little jagged edge. We hopefully are not going to be trending up too much, but you do kind of see a slight trend there. So this week, we have 194 cases. And on the next slide is our hospital capacity, which still is very strong and has been strong for several weeks as well. The hospital meetings that I've been in, they're feeling, pretty good about what's going on there. Obviously, very cautious and still watching that, though. The COVID-19 positive patients in the Northwest Oregon hospitals, again, you're seeing that jagged edge going up and down, which of course kind of does go along with our cases that we're seeing that go up and down slightly. Our county metrics. And I think I'm going to turn this over to Philip because he has a little bit more information on the county metrics, because you can see we're at 98.7, which is just on the cusp of going into high risk. So Philip?
Good morning. Thank you, Nancy. Good morning, Chair Smith and Commissioners. Yes, we highlighted this in red because it's important, 98.7. So we are still for another 2 weeks, starting tomorrow, at moderate risk for reopening metrics for businesses. That's good. However, you can see the trend is heading in the wrong direction. And we are concerned that 2 weeks from now, we don't want to be in a situation where we're moving backwards. If that does happen 2 weeks from now, where we're sharing this data and this number is above 100, then the state of Oregon has a new process where they'll let us know that we are in a caution state. And we have 2 additional weeks before then we would move into the high risk category. What that means is for the majority of our businesses, instead of being at 50% capacity, which they are right now, it would reduce them back to 25%. That's something certainly we do not want to have happen. With spring break, with schools reopening, we really need, the community and all of us through our individual actions to continue to follow those tried and true public health precautions, wearing masks, keeping distance, practicing good hygiene. And if you are feeling unwell, that you are staying home and staying away from others to protect them from potentially spreading COVID-19. Next slide, please, Christina. The majority of my info, of course, lately is around the vaccination efforts. So over 90,000 people at this point in Clackamas County have received vaccinations. Either they're fully vaccinated or they're in process. We have lots of appointments at clinics as more vaccine supplies are coming in, where a lot more folks are scheduled in the coming weeks to get vaccination. And at this point, this represents 21.5% of our county's population. I did want to note that this number is for anyone, regardless of where they went to get a vaccine in the state of Oregon. That's the number of our residents out of our over 420,000 people who are vaccinated. The only data that's not reflected here is if someone got their vaccinations out of state. There could be a gap in that information, but that's a very, very small number of people. Next slide, please. Last week, as folks have likely seen in the news, that the timelines have been brought forward. So that's good news that more people are going to be eligible to be able to get appointments than originally anticipated. Starting on Monday, this upcoming Monday, March 29th, those who are age 45 to 64 that have underlying health conditions will be eligible to get the vaccination. We've also been working hard at the Public Health Division to reach out to farms, to reach out to food processing and manufacturing, get those folks through contracts or through our own staff, have mobile teams that go out at their locations to provide the vaccines. Also working with our nonprofits to provide small clinics for our houseless populations. And then in mid-April, that is when it opens up to frontline workers, so grocery store workers, a large number of folks becoming eligible, and younger people with underlying health conditions. On May 1st, that is when its eligibility opens up entirely for those who are 16 years old and over. Next slide, please. The state shared this graphic last week. I thought that it's helpful just to show, and they continue to update this as we get more information from manufacturing and the federal government, just in terms of vaccine supplies for the first doses coming into Oregon. So this blue line here shows you what the anticipated first doses are that's coming into the state. And the gray line shows where we are at around eligibility. So group 6 in the middle of the screen there, that's Monday. So you can see again, supplies and demand. There is more demand, and that's the way the system has been designed. But I am happy to see that we are making some good progress in terms of continuing to get more supplies coming in. It is fluid, it continues to change, but appointments are becoming more and more available as we move along, and surge plans are being implemented. Next slide. As we know, Clackamas County has an older population in general. One of the options that the state had this week is that we could attest that we were essentially near completion of our older adults having received access. And as of last week, so we've already, over the past few days, we've made some progress here, but this was last week's data where we had 51.9% of our seniors vaccinated. So, this accounts for about 38,000 individuals roughly that are eligible, older adults who haven't yet had at least their first dose. So this week we have provided local opportunities. We have some clinics with appointments still available. We really want to assure that our older adults do have access to local options before we expand eligibility, which will begin, as I said earlier, on Monday. Next slide. So here are the appointments. We have actually at the town center tomorrow, we still have appointments on Friday and Saturday. You can go to clackamas.us right there on the main page. It provides you with the link to access the appointments. We also have appointments at Molalla High School next Wednesday. So really want to encourage folks, hop onto our website to get access to the appointment. It's really important that you follow the instructions. There is a code that you have to enter. And so we've heard from some folks that have had some technical difficulties with that. But once you enter that code, you should be able to access and select the time to get the appointment and the additional instructions that you need. They are appointment only. You do have to schedule an appointment in order to receive a vaccine. Final slide, please, Christina. So again, head on over to our website. If you have folks in your life who are older adults that are trying to get a vaccine, please assist them. You can also refer them to our call center at 503-655-8224. They are available to schedule you for these local opportunities. If folks haven't already, and for folks who aren't yet eligible, but would like to be alerted when they are eligible and when vaccines are available, they can use the SATE system to get notified and get pre-registered at getvaccinated.oregon.gov. And we are starting to put in our local opportunities in there as well. So you'll receive information about mass vaccination clinics in Portland, along with our local opportunities that we are providing. We, I think folks have likely seen the national news that the supplies coming into the state. We're working really hard to make sure that we can provide some local clinics. At this point, we're anticipating a surge of supplies around 7,000 to 10,000 per week, although we don't know exactly when that starts. It hasn't begun. We're really getting the ramp up of additional vaccine supplies locally. But we're preparing for it. We're going to be providing as many of these options as we can moving forward. But this is how we're starting, and this is what we have currently in place. And I believe that is my last slide for today. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Philip. I believe Commissioner Savas is in the queue.
And Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, Philip, thank you for your presentation. I'm speaking to the red numbers there with the increase in cases, and seems like Clackamas County, as you may recall, I look at those stats every day that come out, and I'm just watching ours. Ours are indeed proportionally higher on a per capita basis than a lot of our neighboring counties. So not every day, but frequently. So I am alarmed. So what can you tell us about the type? Are these outbreaks? Are they work related, home related? What can you tell us? I thought our contact tracing would give us the ability to keep that under control. It looks like our neighboring counties, like Washington County, for example, seems to have some pretty good numbers lately. So what's going on in Clackamas County that we're kind of trending the wrong way?
It's a variety of different types of outbreaks, so connected to social gatherings also, so that's why spring break is a little bit of a concern right now. The timing is not ideal. Also, as I'll say, we have had a couple of significant exposures within local school communities. And to clarify, it's not been the school in-person instructions. It's actually interactions of people outside in the school community, connected to sports, connected to other activities. And so we have had some significant exposures, outbreaks, and issues related to that in a couple of the local schools. Also, a handful of workplaces, but that's been sort of commonplace throughout the course of the pandemic.
Okay, so just to follow up on that, so the governor's guidance and somewhat of a mandate, apparently, instructions to schools reopen. If this exposure continues, and is there a conflict between our efforts to get things under control and the governor's instructions for the schools to open, where it's circumstantial, but yet if we go back, my concern is if we're rolled back, the impacts to, when I say businesses, what I'm really talking about are the employees as well, because that's a significant hit. But my concern is that it could be very devastating for all the businesses that are starting to reopen. And if it's out of our control, and if it's out of their control, yet they would be impacted, and the schools are still, doing what they're doing. So I'm a little bit of a loss. Would the governor roll back the school openings if we go the wrong way, or is it separate? I've lost track because of the lack of consistency.
Yeah, it is definitely confusing, and it changes. They're separate at this time, and I think everything's been on the table. It will continue to be on the table. At this point, for schools to be successful, I think we've said this all along, is that it's really the interactions of our community members outside of the classroom that are really important. So yes, it's great, and we want kids back in the classroom. And then once we go home and engage in sports, engage in recreation, engage in social gatherings, still following social distancing and wearing masking is really, really important, because we're not in bubbles, we're in webs where we're all connected to one another. And that's how we're going to get the spread of this virus under control.
Yeah, I appreciate that. My concern here, thank you for the clarification. My concern is if the governor's mandate to open the schools, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but if there is no incentive for the schools or the students or the sports related stuff or whatever it may be, if there's no incentive for them to wear the mask or take the precautions because they're going to remain open, and then the impacts are to a completely different population, that's a conflict that needs to be somewhat sorted out. That's really unfair to everyone else if there is no repercussions or adjustments being made on the school side, right? Because if that's where the exposure is.
Yeah, well, I'd also add that if there is an exposure in the school or an outbreak, then having to go back to distance learning, having to potentially stop in-person instruction within a local school would have to happen, depending on the situation, and it is very disruptive, and that's hard too for families.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Before I call on Commissioner Fisher, would the folks in the room please mute or turn off your cell phones? It's a little bit disruptive. Thank you kindly. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I get really frustrated and a little bit emotional when I think about our kids having to move back to distance learning. So I appreciate that interruption because it got me out of my emotional state there. Philip, I am really curious. I get a lot of questions as to, well, what can we do now? What do we do if we're vaccinated or if we're not vaccinated? Do you follow the CDC guidelines? Are the Oregon guidelines different than the CDC guidelines? I'm just hoping that you can help direct me and us to what is recommended now. It's, and as Commissioner Savas says, it's very confusing.
To clarify, Commissioner, is it regarding if you're fully vaccinated, what can you do, what can't you do? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, there's just differences. And I mean, there are travel. I was just looking yesterday. I had a question about travel. If you go out of state, then what is it recommended when you come back? But is that the same for people who are vaccinated as unvaccinated? or how do we sort through, we're in a transition point, and we're on a race against the variant that we want to keep at bay. So where do we get the latest information as to what's recommended?
Yeah, we have worked with the state and the region around how to take the CDC guidance and communicate that. There is on our county webpage specific guidance on that. It will continue to get updated as we learn more. We want folks to continue to be cautious because we haven't achieved herd immunity and not enough folks have been vaccinated. But also we want, folks to enjoy the benefit of getting the vaccine, and that there are some things that you can do to address some of the stress and anxiety of the weight of the pandemic. So I'm happy to come back next week with a lot more specifics. But in the meantime, that information is prominent on our website too.
Oh, good. I do know that the previous chart that the Oregon Health Authority provided that had the different risk levels and what the requirements were as far as capacity, I mean, that was very, very helpful, but it's almost, now there's just a difference, and it's like the vaccinated and then the unvaccinated. And now we have 21% of Clackamas County it's in the process or has been fully vaccinated. That's pretty great. We're moving ahead. Really proud of our team here at Clackamas County. Thank you.
Yeah, Philip, bring back some more specifics for us. It'd be great. Thank you very much. Thank you for your questions. Is that it for Philip and Nancy? Okay, thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Nancy and Philip. All right, next, Commissioners, is a board discussion item, and it is from County Administration, approval of a resolution reaffirming Clackamas County as nonpartisan. I will present. In August 2017, the Board of County Commissioners at that time unanimously approved a resolution, number 2017-93, reaffirming Clackamas County as nonpartisan. Earlier this year, Commissioner Savas recommended the board reconsider reaffirming that reaffirmation of Clackamas County as nonpartisan, and you did discuss that earlier this month in March. And last week, you agreed to move this to the business meeting today, and you made one edit to the original resolution, which was adding a section in the therefore section of the resolution. And if I may, I will read the entirety of the therefore resolution, which is the action item of the resolution. And it states, the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners affirms the value of nonpartisanship in its deliberations and determinations, and vows to respectfully take into consideration differing political perspectives on proposed policies. As a governing body of Clackamas County, the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners will strive to act collaboratively in a nonpartisan manner and capacity in an effort to best serve county residents, and will further endeavor to refrain from engaging in partisan politics. The Clackamas County Board of Commissioners, elected on a nonpartisan basis, will leave partisanship at the door to fully serve all the residents of Clackamas County. Today, Commissioners, we are seeking your approval to approve this resolution reaffirming Clackamas County as nonpartisan.
Commissioner Savas, do you have any comments to make now?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I want to just thank my colleagues for their support on this. And if there are no other comments, I'm happy to make the motion, but.
Well, we have one. Yeah, and I'll let you make the motion, Commissioner Savas. I have one comment here. Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I've been thinking very long and hard about this because it's been kind of a rocky road lately. So I'm just going to say a few things to the folks that are here today and to the people of Clackamas County that we are elected to represent. I want to tell you how much I admire and support Commissioner Sonia Fisher, because her work with housing, her heart for people who are vulnerable is an extremely important and dedicated aspect of what we do in our work. And as a colleague, I respect her, I love her, I consider her a very dear and close friend on a personal level. I support and I respect my colleague, Commissioner Paul Savas, because he probably has one of the finest minds in details that I have ever experienced. And he is kind of the guru of transportation. So I depend on him if I need a particular detail, quite frankly, to, set us straight on most things. And oftentimes, he will see a detail or see something that the rest of us are missing. And having him as part of our collegial team has been absolutely fantastic. So bless you, Commissioner Savas, for being the detail guy who works so hard on transportation. Chair Smith, I just think you're a hoot. I don't know what else I can say. I think your leadership right now has been absolutely pretty on target, trying to guide us through what have been challenging times. We've had a whole year, of unprecedented, absolutely, between the pandemic, the wildfires, ice storms, one emergency after the other. Our previous commission did a fabulous job. Our current commission, under your leadership, is continuing to do a fabulous job. And of course, I'm kind of biased because I really like your daughter. Okay, okay, that's true.
Thank you.
We're going to plan to get our daughters together.
We are.
But thank you, and, stay cool, okay?
I'll try. Thank you for that
Yeah,
advice.
well, you bet. And Commissioner Scholl, I just want to tell you that we've had private conversations, and I'm just going to say one thing, that yes, I have been hurt by some of your statements that have been out there personally, and but that is a private thing between you and I. But I have to tell you that as someone who has been in the military and is a Bronze Star veteran, and who has been quietly and diligently saying that your actions speak louder than words, I am looking forward to work with you on veterans issues in a very consistent and positive way. Now, this is not to say that I agree with all of my colleagues on much of anything. I've certainly had bumpy times with every single one of you upon occasion. But I do think I'm going to ask the constituents of our county, I'm going to ask, because this is a nonpartisan thing, to please give us the space to do our work, to please give us the space to honor one another, to please give us the space to get the work of the county done, as opposed to constantly being dragged back into discord and hateful comments. I mean, and I will speak later about with recent. I'm not going to talk about it now, but I will under Commissioner Communication. My experience with the Asian American community, because that's been very upsetting to me as well.
Thank you.
So that's why I would gladly second a motion if Commissioner Savas moves to approve this.
We'll wait.
Okay, and if anybody else would like to say something, I guess, but.
Well, I'll finish. Since I became chair, the nonpartisan issue was very important to me, and so when I read over the script, I added language that I have been repeating since I chaired my very first meeting. And I'm going to repeat it here, and then I'm going to repeat it again before the public testimony. Portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of the board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. And if I do anything as chair in my tenure here, is I will continue to give a civics lesson to anybody who will hear me. And I do that a lot. I speak a lot, and I do that a lot because I think it's important to understand that your county commissions across Oregon, very much unlike your legislative bodies, are charged with delivering the services to the folks with the boots on the ground. And we are legislators are pass-through money. We get the money, a lot of times not enough, to try to do very enormous things, and at times it is very difficult. And when people need their government the most, they turn to your county government and your county commission to try to provide that. And we've all had challenges, so I ask that people just, with that in mind, it's not to say you can't talk about the issues, heaven forbid, talk about the issues till the cows come home. But we are nonpartisan. So with that in mind, Commissioner Savas, I'll entertain your motion.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I move we approve the resolution reaffirming Clackamas County as nonpartisan.
Second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Savas and seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further commentary? Commissioner Fisher?
Yes, Chair Smith, thank you. I just want to ditto what my colleagues have said. We have the incredible honor and privilege of delivering the services to people on the ground. And when it comes to filling a pothole, removing debris, making sure that we have a safety net and public safety for our residents, we are all in this together, and we have tremendous camaraderie and connection and passion for the people in Clackamas County together. And as Commissioner Smith often says, that we working together create a mind belt, which I really appreciate, because it is with our various perspectives, experiences, that we're able to do the work. And we all care so much, and that is a beautiful thing. So thank you, Chair Smith.
Thank you. All your comments are very heartfelt. I appreciate, I love working with y'all. It's just, I learn every single day. With that in mind, Christina, would you please take the poll?
Absolutely. Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Schull?
Aye.
And Chair Smith?
Aye, resolution passes 5-0. Gary, what's up next?
Thank you, Chair. Next is the consent agenda, and I'll ask Christina if you would please read the consent agenda by title only.
Yes. Today we have Health, Housing, and Human Services. Number 1, approval for Amendment Number 7 to a revenue agreement with Providence Health Plan, Providence Health Assurance, and Providence Plan Partners. No county funds. The service is a revenue. Number 2, approval of an amendment to the contract with Northwest Family Services for culturally specific Go Team in response to COVID-19 pandemic. Amendment value is $179,130, increasing the contract maximum to $316,000 and $175, excuse me. No general funds are involved. Number 3, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Portland to access and use the Homeless Management Information System. The cost will not exceed $100,000 and will be funded through the COVID grant. No general funds are involved. Under Department of Transportation and Development, approval of a resolution declaring the public necessity and purpose for acquisition of rights-of-way, easements, and fee property for the Lolo Pass Road Stabilization and Surface Preservation Project, and authorizing good faith negotiations and condemnation actions. The right-of-way budget for this project is $15,000 and is included in the $4,104,731 total project with funding through County Roads Fund and Federal Lands Access Program. Under elected officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes. Number 2, request by the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon to provide transit police services. TriMet will fully compensate the Sheriff's Department for the actual cost of salary and benefits for the person assigned to provide patrol services. Under Technology Services, approval to purchase Secure Auth subscription for identity access management and multi-factor authentication. Annual payments of $56,116.94 for a total of $168,350.82 over 3 years. This will come out of existing technology services allocated in the budget. Under the Juvenile Department, approval of an award for Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program, fiscal year 2018, local solicitation. This grant would provide $36,423 to Clackamas County. No match is required. Number 2, approval of an award for Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program Fiscal Year 2020, local solicitation. This grant would provide $41,824 to Clackamas County. No match is required. Number 3, approval of a contract with Parrot Creek Child and Family Services Incorporated for the outpatient juvenile sex offense treatment program services. Total contract is $460,000, with $60,000 coming from general fund and anticipated Oregon Youth Authority individualized services funding $32,000 annually. For community corrections, approval of an intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County Community Corrections and Oregon State Parks, Milo McIver State Park, to provide work crew services from March 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2021. The IGA will provide $30,000 in revenue to support the community service program. Under disaster management, approval of amendment number 9 to an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon Housing and Community Services Department to provide grant funding up to a not exceed amount. This will increase the not to exceed amount of $33,214,058, an increase of $1,467,031. No general funds are involved. Under number 2, approval of an amendment number 7 to intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon Housing and Community Services Department to provide grant funding to a not exceed amount. This will increase the not to exceed amount of $31,747,027, an increase of $5,759,859. Funds come through federal pass-through funds from CARES. And that is the consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Does any commissioner wish to remove anything from the consent agenda? I see a light on.
Commissioner Fisher has her hand up.
Commissioner Fisher.
Yes, Chair Smith, I don't wish to remove any item, but I wanted to highlight, we are going to be engaging in discussions regarding a direct allocation of dollars. And one program, there's so much substance in this consent agenda, but I wanted to highlight one program, which is the GO Teams, which is really mental health first aid on-site at request. And this effort has been extraordinary. Began at the beginning of the pandemic, where our mental health resources could actually go to people. And I'm pretty sure all of us were out during the wildfires, at the evacuation sites. We visited the warming shelters and the resource centers during the ice storm. And we've just been engaged out in the community. And we've seen our staff and the staff of these nonprofits out there connecting and providing that support. It's remarkable. And it's one of those silver linings of a pandemic to create a service like that, and it's something that I think it should be on our review as we look at how we're moving forward to recover better through this pandemic, so.
Well, that's certainly something that needs to be, I think, taken in consideration. We're all learning our way through this. Holy cow, right?
Yes.
Any other commissioner comment? Christina, would you please call the poll?
Point of order, Chair, we need a motion.
You know what? We need a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
The motion has been moved by Commissioner Fisher and seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any other comments? Thank you, Christina. Please call the poll now.
Commissioner Fisher?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
And Chair Smith?
Aye, passes 5-0. Thank you. The board will now recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District for the next consent agenda.
Christina, would you please read the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District consent agenda by title only?
Of course, we only have one item on this consent agenda. It's to approve trail easement agreement granted by PEDCor Investments to North Clackamas Parks and Recreation to provide for a portion of the future Phillips Creek Trail. No fiscal impact at this time.
Does any commissioner wish to remove this item off the consent agenda? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Chair, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Commissioner Saffis has moved we approve the consent agenda for this department, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Christina, would you call the poll?
Of course, Commissioner Fisher,
Aye.
Commissioner Savis,
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl,
Aye.
and Chair Smith.
Aye, the motion has passed. The board will adjourn as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners for the next remainder of the meeting. Up next, public communication. This portion of the agenda shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of the board consideration and should be nonpartisan in nature, as the BCC is a nonpartisan governing body under Oregon Revised Statutes and County Code. Testimony is limited to 3 minutes. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. As a reminder, you can email submissions for public comment, public communication at bcc@clackamas.us, and these will be accepted as part of the public record. However, we will not be reading them at the business meeting due to time constraints. I will now open the meeting for public testimony. I will take the people who are in the audience first, and I have 4 cards so far. First person up is Nicole Reardon, I'm sorry. Please come up to the microphone, state your name and your location of your residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay. This is intimidating. My name is Nicole Reardon. I live in Westland, Oregon.
Would you speak into the microphone, state your name and residence? Thank you.
Sure. I'm Nicole Reardon, and I live in Westland. Thank you for hearing me. Governor Brown, as we know, has adopted the CDC guideline for the RSSL in public schools, accepting the 3 feet distancing versus the 6. Today, I'm here fighting for 5 full in-person school days for all of these districts here in Clackamas County. The decision was given over to each district individually. Over a year ago, our kids were handed a deal that if they did their part, we would reopen their schools. Guess what? We're in the green. The kids did the work. As I wait to hear from our district, I read on April 12th, Ben Lapine, the 5th largest school district in Oregon, is welcoming back learners to full-time in-person, all due to the 3 feet rule. Yet, North Clackamas School District won't have all grade bands in the hybrid until the very last day mandated, April 19th. There is time this year to open our 113 public schools here in our county. The Big 5 district is showing us all it is possible, while our largest district, not yet open, makes for an easier transition to skip over to full-time learning. The difference to opening fully is staggering. In our district, Westland Wilsonville followed the Ben Lapine model. My son would attend 51 in-person days. Those same days in hybrid offer him 24 and a half days of in-person learning. 3 of those days are really 6 half days. We cannot continue asking students to wait for their schooling. They are losing time. We have experience in our family of lost education. 3 years ago, I realized our then 3rd grader was not being taught math at a private school in Gladstone. A new teacher was brought in to accelerate math. However, you don't know what you don't know. You can't jump to division if you don't know. If you don't know multiplication facts, you can't do multiplication if you can't add. The next year we enrolled him into public school. Last March we learned that he was trailing in math. Since then he's been attending Mathnasium 3 to 5 days each week. His hard work over this year is paying off. He's completed 3rd and nearly 4th grade levels, getting close to 5th grade. My son's in 6th grade. This lost school year will snowball, just as it has for my child. I share this for 2 reasons. Kids can catch up, yes. It takes dedication from a child and their adult. We both have to care. This year, the snowballs for students. If we do not move ahead to full-time in-person learning, Clackamas County students will likely fall behind those counties that do, as well as states like Washington that are opening. I don't tell my son he's falling behind. Google Classroom does that for him by reiterating every time he logs on, that F looks at him and he looks at me and says, I'm never graduating. Children have to earn their way back into public education by following staying home, distancing, hand washing, and masking.
Thank you.
Let me say that again. Children have had to earn their way back into schooling.
Thank you, Nicole. I really appreciate it.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. All the commissioners here have received numerous emails regarding opening our schools. And you're saying what a lot of people think and feel. And it's just a really tough situation. We just need, I agree, we need to open up our schools and go for it. Living as a human being in society is never zero risk. It's just the way life is. And we need to go forward, and we need to take children like your son, who maybe has fallen behind, and give him some extra attention and boost his ego and get him back going again, because he can do it. I know it. With a mom like you, of course, he's going to be back to grade level. And I really want to thank you for coming and sharing that, your very heartfelt testimony.
I apologize. Thank you for hearing me.
Up next is Levon Lazarus. Please state your name and your residence, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Yvonne Lazarus, and I live in Oak Grove. I have 2 things I want to talk about and a statement. Metro and this isn't on this agenda, but Metro and this transfer center on Jennifer Street. The county needs to know a lot more about this. A lot more. We need a lot more information. 140 million to 180 million. And some of the stuff I've read, I thought, oh yeah. Anyway, I know that April 1st, it's on the agenda, so I hope we can get a lot more information on this. Okay, secondly, I want to talk about the vets meeting that got everybody upset. I watched it. I could not believe it. You have a real problem over there. And as I watched, and I saw, Martha, why didn't you say something? I know that the one person who really made sense to me was Lori Kimmel.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
She was exceptional, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm glad you're all saying that this is not a political forum. I'm glad to hear that. With that being said, that is going to take a very big effort with what's going on. And that means when people call in to slander Commissioner Shull, they should be cut off, dead. That does not mean you're not letting them have their freedom of speech. It means this isn't a political forum, and he is not a whipping post. Now, my statement is this. 10 people got shot. And it was by a white young man. But I challenge people to find out what his religion was. And that's all I'm going to say on that. And I'm going to ask everybody in Clackamas County to
Thank
go
you.
to their Bibles,
Okay.
1 John 4.
Thank you, Yvonne. I appreciate you coming forward today. Up next, John Knotts. Please state your name, residence, and you have 3 minutes.
John Knotts. I live in the woods up between Sandy and Estacada. Need anything else?
That's good, thank you.
2275094, that was my Vietnam service number.
Sandy's good enough.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. It appears to me that somebody's pulled the light on in the rabbit hutch, so maybe we're going somewhere. So I've had a lot of experience over the years working with women, men, and children. So if the county needs any help in that direction, please call me.
Okay.
We've had a lot of young women and women in their 40s that have been abused as children and went to psychiatrists until they went to a class that I worked with Virgil Fry on, Soleil Moon Fry's father. They finally let it all go. Psychology is an interesting area to work in. But very quickly came to my attention last Friday evening that we're putting new signage on bridges throughout the county, the state, apparently every state in the union. What it's done is between Sandy and Ames and from Springdale to Trout Creek Road, PGE trucks are too heavy to cross the bridges. Log trucks are too heavy to cross the bridges. People have been notified, as Turin was notified, gravel trucks are too heavy to cross the bridges. Fire trucks are too heavy to cross the bridges. Now, I know fire and rescue will have special dispensation to cross the bridges. So the other answer that I confirmed was, if this is the case, how are people going to get gravel? How are they going to move log trucks? And how is PGE going to respond to power outage? Well, I guess they're going to buy a permit. Who knows how much or how many, which will be passed on to the customer. Setting that aside, a PGE crew was headed out to a power outage. The last truck crossed a bridge. Who'd received new signage. The driver was given an $8,000 ticket. He presented it to PGE. PGE said, "It's not my problem, you're the driver." Now, as a CDL holder, commercial truck driver for years, you are responsible for your truck. So I suppose they'll work that out. As far as anybody who lost property, partial property, or a tree stand during the fire, I'd like to find out how many. If those people have received a current new market value, and if that new market value is lesser than the taxed value, then they can only be taxed at the lesser value. Could we look into that? Secondly, I'd like to have all veterans and all property owners in Clackamas County call the tax office and request, line item by line item, exactly what they're being taxed for. They have that right, and I was told that yesterday by the tax office when I called to confirm my veterans tax exemption. There are two. They used to be listed property tax exemption, service connected, other non-service connected, and there's several $1,000s difference. 1 year, about a dozen years ago, I was allowed the lower rate because they've taken those two distinctions off and they only list it as exemption. So you have to call to see if, and all of a sudden a mistake was made.
Thank you, John.
Needs to be looked into.
Yeah, John, regarding a couple of the issues you raised, on property taxes on burned homes, there is a bill, a Senate bill in the legislature to prorate those property taxes due from the date the house burned down, and I believe I testified in favor of that, in support of the bill, and I believe this commission supports that as well. That is being kicked around right now in the legislature. County commissions do not have authority to raise or lower property taxes in that regard. The only time we can, I think any authority we have might be to ask the citizens for a tax increase. Is that right, Gary?
That's correct.
I think so. Gary is going to address your bridge situation.
Yes, actually, our Director of Transportation is listening and texted me. This is a state law. It's the Oregon Department of Transportation, so it's not counties that made that decision or is
Right,
charging the fines.
exactly.
We certainly can advocate and ask, why are you doing that, and what's the relief? So we will do that.
And what's the name of that bridge, John?
Well, the two between Sandy and Ames.
Okay, all right.
One would be Revenue and the other one is probably Bull Run.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the,
Aren't we working on the Bull Run Bridge, Mark? Is that you?
it has had work done on it, yes.
Oh, you're working on trying to do something?
Well,
Or
it
Paul.
has to do with the potential construction regarding the Bull Run and filtration plant.
And I think we are asking our federal partners for $10 million on that. Is that right, Paul?
Yes, that bridge is, I forgot how many years old, but it's way past due for a rehabilitation. And so it's not structurally sound as it once was. And so we need to update that. So we have a federal ask and possibly an earmark to get the funding for that. It does feed the Bull Run watershed area and the facilities, the dam and so forth. So it's actually used by a number of loggers and the city of Portland primarily, and a few local residents that live there. But it's a kind of remote bridge. The other bridge I'm not familiar with. It may be on the other side of the entry of the Bull Run area.
Yeah, we have been working on that. Paul and I have been talking with the federal delegation in person on that particular bridge, on the Bull Run Bridge, for $10 million on that. So we'll see what happens. But thank you for bringing our attention.
If I may, the loss, the property loss, where a real market value is lesser than the assessed value, I believe that should be done on a county level. Am I wrong with that?
I don't know, Gary.
I'm not talking about
I know.
what
Gary?
you're talking about.
I don't know.
I don't know. We'll get back to you. We'll ask our county tax collector on that, an assessment person. Her
Please
name is
do. I've
Tammy
asked-
Little. And, you could go. She's right next door. I don't know. I assume they're open. But we'll get an answer, and we will report back next week.
Very good. We'll just lay some groundwork here.
Yep. Thank you,
Like-
John.
Like Moses and the Ten Commandments, when he said, "Is this all God?" And God said, "No. It's
Thank
gonna
you
take
very
them
much.
Several hundred years to get the 10 down.
Okay, great. Up next is Les Poole. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning. I love trying to listen to people through masks. Les Poole, I live in Gladstone. I appreciate the reaffirmation of the nonpartisan agreement and understand and appreciate where Commissioner Schrader is coming from. And Paul will appreciate this, but in 2017, when there was a shift in the makeup of the commission, I showed up because folks thought things would change dramatically, politically, and I spoke about nonpartisanship. I got a lot of buy-in from Commissioner Fisher, who soon was appointed, and it was Paul Savas, Commissioner Savas, that took that concept and worked so hard and got a nonpartisan agreement signed. Ironically, in early 2018, after former Chair Bernard's Facebook rants, kind of an ironic thing, he and the commissioners agreed to reaffirm the nonpartisan agreement, and here we are. So I'm very supportive of that. And regarding county business, I want to be very clear about something. I show up here week after week, month after month, and year after year about county business. And sometimes things become county business. And that's what's happened with the extensive participation of Commissioner Fisher in the attempt to, I believe, remove Commissioner Scholl. And I have a question, and obviously we do not need to belabor it here, but sometime in the next few days I would appreciate if Commissioner Fisher would email to the county administrator and to the board all examples of racist conduct or inappropriate conduct that she claims has occurred since Commissioner Scholl took office. Since Commissioner Scholl took office. I'll close with a couple of real brief comments and a question about Metro. The transportation measure that failed last November was a giant boondoggle, and Lost in that, of course, was funding for some projects that we really need to move forward with. And regardless of anyone's opinion on Metro, I know the county is seeking some funding, hopefully from the legislature, for the Sunrise Corridor. That project and connectivity is critical. So keeping us updated and anything that I can do to help with that, that's a subject we all agree on. So transportation is a real big concern, and we're in a tough time. So I want to thank you, and somehow I accidentally timed that in 3 minutes.
Well, way to go, Les. All righty. Thank you. I see no in-person testimony. I think we're done. Christina, you can moderate the public communication on Zoom.
Yes, we only have 2 people registered today, and I will go ahead and start with Jason Pearson. Jason, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair and committee. My name is Jason Pearson. I live in HD 51 in Happy Valley. I'm here speaking as a resident of Clackamas County to express my desire for this board and the public comments at these meetings to stand by the resolutions passed by the board, which I believe to be in the best interest of the county, and creates an obligation of the chair and board, including the nonpartisan resolution passed today. That being said, I want to reiterate the findings that this board voted unanimously to approve in its resolution of January 14th. These statements are to be taken as facts, supporting this board's unanimous conclusion that Commissioner Schull should resign. Number 1, Commissioner Schull made posts to social media that were derogatory, offensive, insensitive, and racist. Number 2, Commissioner Schull has imputed to Clackamas County a reputation of racism, sexism, religious insensitivity, and intolerance. And 3, that Commissioner Schull's statements damaged the reputation of Clackamas County. This board is charged with taking action that is in the best interest of the county and its constituents. A resolution has been signed with these facts used as the premise of the board's desire to have Commissioner Schull resign for the best interest of this county. It is unreasonable to argue that Commissioner Schull should hold a position on this board or be afforded committee assignments when this board has unanimously asserted and accepted as fact that Commissioner Schull has damaged the reputation of the county and imputed a reputation of racism, sexism, religious insensitivity, and intolerance on the county. This is evidenced by the public comments noting this negative reputation and fear by employees of and contractors with Clackamas County since the resolution was signed, indicating actual damages. Actions taken to limit Commissioner Schull's negative impact on the reputation of the county by way of limiting his responsibilities or committee assignments until a recall election can be had is a noble action to carry out this board's charge to do what is best in the best interest of the county based on this board's unanimous resolution. No commissioner should be criticized for carrying out this board's charge. Given the findings made in the January 14th, 2021 resolution, I believe that any responsibilities or committee assignments beyond what is required under Oregon law to Commissioner Schull would be in direct contradiction to this board's unanimous findings and a likely misuse of the public trust. Further, given those findings, I believe this board would be wise to consider implementing policy that directly addresses those issues, not only through the request for resignation of Commissioner Schull, but through funding and policy that provides the underprivileged among us with an opportunity to succeed. A good place to start would be to look at repealing Clackamas Code 8.02, which places an additional tax on business owners and transient residents temporarily staying in hotels for 30
Thank
days.
you very much, Jason. Your 3 minutes are up. Christina, who's up next?
We will go ahead and move on to the last caller. It's Christine Kennedy. Christine, if you can unmute yourself, state your area of residence, and you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm Christine Kennedy. I live in Lake Oswego, Clackamas County. Chair Smith, Commissioners, and County Admin Schmidt. I just have 3 things I'd like to address, 3 points. First point is there's been conversation about the county fair. I trust that you have all the right people looking into all the all the advantages, disadvantages, risks, benefits. I just want to make sure that everybody is just really aware, and with presentation this morning, we're ticking up a little bit. Where our people are making choices, the virus will spread and mutate. And Chair Smith, I would love to hear you encourage people to get the vaccination. It's really the only way we're going to get through this. Second of all, clearly you all are working, understanding that there's a lot of adversity that we're dealing with right now. And leading through adversity really requires a whole new set of skills. Y'all have your own styles of leadership. The fact that you've had your emergency operations center open for a year, that is a huge challenge for your government, and I know you all know that. Typically with the EOC, communications, the better we can do with that, we will all benefit as a county. Knowing that we're leading through adversity, I would suggest that really we all need to look for strengths and think about what does bringing a lot of diversity into your leadership team do for us and benefit us as a county. The new learnings is really the more people that you have on your team, the more diverse, the more skills, the better you're going to be. You need to trust them, you need to listen to them, and part of this requires some insight into current skills and what you all need to learn to move forward. So I'm all for going for it, but we have to be very wise. We need to be really smart about how we come out of this. I would add a fourth crisis that we're going through, fourth type of disaster, and that has to do with social justice and equity. So thank you for your resolution. I think the question is, how will that be managed? How will people get feedback? Because I see lots of partisanship that's pretty subtle. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. Christine, is that it?
That is it.
Great. Okay, I will now close the public communication portion of the meeting, and we will move on. Gary, what's up?
Next, Chair, is County Administrator update, and I will provide this. First, Commissioners, under the Emergency Declaration 2020-14, the COVID-19 declaration, I signed 3 agreements on your behalf that I'm seeking your ratification of today. All 3 were facility agreements that allows Clackamas County to provide vaccination clinics. The agreements are with the Clackamas Mall, Clackamas County Fairgrounds, and Bridges to Change. It is for us to provide vaccination clinics. There are no costs involved, except that we will be responsible for restoring facilities to their original state if needed. And if we do need to do that, those funds will be paid for by CARES Act funding, no general funds. I signed all of these contracts on March 23rd, except one of them had an error, so I re-signed it on March 24th. So I'm seeking your ratification today, Commissioners, of those 3 agreements I signed for you.
I will accept the motion to ratify these items.
I move to ratify these items.
Second.
Commissioner Scholl has moved to ratify the county administrator's items, and Commissioner Schrader has seconded. Is there any discussion on these 3 items? Seeing none, Christina, would you call the poll?
Yes. Commissioner Fisher?
Hi.
Commissioner Savis?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Scholl?
Aye.
And Chair Smith?
Aye, the motion has passed 5-0.
Thank you,
Gary,
Chair.
what's up?
And then one more quick item of good news I'd like to share at my updates. I want to thank our Community Development Division of Health, Housing, and Human Services. They have provided a block grant to the nonprofit Next Step Strategies to support building a 22-unit housing complex to provide high-functioning adults with autism a home and their independence. This small community is the first of its kind built by We Built, an arm of Next Step Strategies. This project included the purchase of the property for the pilot housing project, a street extension project on Southeast Tolbert Road to the property, housing units customized and personalized for each individual, and a clubhouse where the residents can socialize. So thank you to Community Development for helping to make that happen, and they plan to do more such grants in the near future. That is my update for today, Chair, and next is Commissioner Communication.
Thank you. We will start our Commissioner Communications. I believe Commissioner Fisher, you're up first today.
Okay, thank you, Chair Smith. It's been a busy time for all of us, I know. One real honor and privilege that I've participated in over the last week is to reach out to the members of our Veterans Advisory Committee. I have not connected with all of them. I have maybe 3 left to connect with, but there are some, I just want to share with everyone some of the major themes that I've heard, because it's pretty inspiring, actually. And part of my interest in this, as most of you know, I am the proud daughter of a World War II decorated veteran.
Oh.
And my, growing up, so I'm going to be 55 coming up, but as we all know, there was a time when I was growing up, a lot of stigma for veterans. And as a child growing up in that world, it made me feel bad for my dad, because I felt that he was the best in the world, right? He's my dad. I mean, he was absolutely the most phenomenal, best dad in the world. So over the years, I've been quite pleased that we have, as a society and a community, come to honor our veterans and their service, and I want us to continue that. It's a real value of mine. And Clackamas County is amazing. So as I've been talking with the veterans, why are you serving on the Veterans Committee? What do you think? Just tell me, share a little bit of your story. And some of the things that, there's a lot of pride in Clackamas County. We are, and I know I'm looking at Commissioner Schrader because she already knows all this, of course, and so do probably most of us, but I'm going to state it for all of us to hear. Clackamas County is nationally recognized. We have a circle of honor right outside those draperies, which honors our veterans. We have a very active veteran service office with our veteran service officers that go and support veterans. We have our Veterans Village, which is a pathway and gateway from homelessness to housing. We have, in this county particularly, a real heart, and there's a lot of pride there from our veterans. In my conversations, I really wanted our volunteer members to know that I deeply value and respect their volunteer service, their commitment to our county, and the unique stories that they bring to us. I am very much looking forward, Administrator Schmidt, I understand that you're going to have some comments on Tuesday. I'm looking very forward to hearing what your results are of the conversations that you've had. I did talk to a veteran yesterday who was very concerned, that felt that a call to disband this Veterans Committee is a form of retaliation for the Veterans Committee sharing how their perception of the Facebook posts of Commissioner Scholl. Very concerned about that. And I am looking forward to that concern being addressed transparently and openly and honestly. And so thank you, Chair Schmidt, that's really funny, Administrator Schmidt, for taking on that work for the benefit of our entire community. That's my first thing. I got 2 other things to talk about. I am the liaison for the leaders in equity, diversity, and inclusion. There was a meeting this week. There was, I must say, I so appreciate the group and their forthright and passionate interest in making sure that we are looking out for all members of our community. They are interested in working with us on addressing the issues regarding the recent uptick in violence against Asian Americans. I know that Commissioner Schrader is going to make a personal statement today, but I am hoping, I'll just let you know, I'm going to be connecting with them and get their feedback, and hopefully, Gary, on Tuesday, if you could add it to issues, to talk about to talk about that issue as well. And then the last thing I want to talk about is, you all know that I am the liaison, or have been, Paul Savas, Commissioner Savas and I both, and I know Commissioner Schrader was also involved with Reimagine Oregon. I had a conversation with one of the leaders of that group yesterday. The meeting that is coming up on, I believe it's April 2nd, is an open meeting. Most electeds from around the region will be attending. I really hope that all of our commissioners can attend that meeting to be engaged with that. And then the last thing I want to mention, as we know, and Chair Smith has reiterated, we did a, oh darn, I had it up here and it disappeared. Where did it go? Darn it, I'm just going to have to go from memory. I just can't believe it. We had a resolution condemning racism and violence. And in that resolution that we passed were a number of action items. And so what I'm hoping I can get support from Gary, from our administrator, is that when we have a talk on Tuesday, we have made tremendous progress in our action items since that resolution was passed. And I think it's important that we continue to communicate to the community, not just we condemn this or we condemn that, but this is what Clackamas County is doing.
Which resolution? Was that the January 14th one?
No, this is.
The previous one, yes, I am aware of that one.
Referenced, that we referenced also in that resolution, the resolution.
Thank you for the
condemning
clarification.
racism and violence. Yes. So that's what I have today. It was more of a work session for the administrator, but I don't get to talk to him enough, so thank you.
Thank you,
Administrator Schmidt, and thank you,
Commissioner
Chair
Fisher, I appreciate that. Up next is Commissioner Schrader.
Okay, well, thank you all. It's been kind of a rough week for me, but, so I am going to make a few statements, and I hope I'm not too long, so indulge me.
Take whatever time you need.
I do want to say publicly that the Veterans Committee is not going to be disbanded. That's not going to happen. The people that are there are going to be there, so not to worry about that. What we are talking about, though, in a positive light, is reinvigorating, and I've talked to Commissioner Shull about this, reinvigorating our commitment and our alignment with Camp Withicum and maybe McCord Base. I've had conversations with General Stencil. I don't think I say adjunct correctly, but he's whatever. Sorry about that. I've had conversations with General Guthrie, and he takes care of the Army Reserve pretty much from the Midwest all the way to the coast. And he's contacted Laura from the North Clackamas Chamber. We had a conversation with him. And so our plan is to do what we, to reinvigorate what we did when we first started this work with veterans. Have more connection with them, get more involved with stand-downs, be aware when people are being deployed, welcoming them back when they come back, and are really going to be dealing with the stresses of coming back, because it is stressful. One of the biggest issues our National Guard faced was that they would literally come home from major combat zones and, kind of be on the base a couple of days, and they'd be out on the street. Whereas, at least my understanding, Commissioner Shull, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a veteran, I just have a heart for veterans. In the Army, a lot of times people would have more time to de-res, to be with the folks that they've been through things with, so on and so forth. So we really worked hard on that. And back in the day, we actually did one of the biggest events in cooperation with Clackamas Community College, bringing all the Guard that had been deployed. We had a day with music, we had a day with food, we had a day where the computer systems was open so people could look for jobs. We gave them all the information on education. It was a combination of, it was a joyous day and a joyous experience. And because of that, Clackamas Community College today is recognized as one of the foremost groups, colleges that is pro-veteran friendly. And one of the people on our Veterans Advisory Committee is the person from the college who works with incoming veterans to make sure to make sure that they're getting what they need, and if they have any special issues that they want to deal with. And so, yeah, I'd like to see it. I'd like to see us really do a little more solid, well, it's always been solid work, but we really need to see if we can kind of move towards some more outcomes with the military presence that we have here in this county. You know, and so, and why did I get involved in this? Because my war was Vietnam, and because I saw it destroy my brother-in-law. And I also had an incident where a young fellow who came back from Vietnam drove his car into a concrete embankment with a number of youngsters in it, and it was shattering. And my mother happened to be on duty that night at the emergency room. And, you know, we were out running around being kids, and I remember seeing her the next morning, and she was a mess. My mother was a pretty steady, kind of tough woman and a nurse, and she ran, the entire hospital, but I've never seen her so shaken up. So, and I believe to this day that young guy did it with intent. I think it was a suicide, that he brought people along with him because of, military trauma. So those are and the reason I'm telling you this, I don't want sympathy as much. I want to tell you that there are things that happen in life that move you in a certain direction, because I am kind of a war no more person, I'll be honest with you. I'm not doing this because I believe that, conflict is the answer. I'm just doing it because we need to have a heart for people. So there's that. Okay. So thank you, Commissioner Fisher, for bringing that up, because we're going to be on a straight path with it. It's not going to go away. People are going to be welcomed, and we're going to get through it. Okay? The other thing I need to talk about, which is kind of emotional for me, is that, with the recent shootings with Asian Americans, it has really rocked me to the core. And the reason it has is, I don't know if people know, but our family is a Holt family, Holt International. And so I have a Korean American son. I don't want to say too much because he always gets mad at me. Okay. But, our family dealt with things in town, okay? He got called names, he was whatever. He also ended up being a prom king, by the way, and he was very popular in high school. But still, there was always, he was always kind of being pulled over by the cops, and, and he'd go, no, that wasn't me, jumping over the fence. And he turned out to be he's resilient, he's smart, he's college educated. We taught him to not put energy into any kind of a racial slur, just to deal with it, be resilient, and we were there for him as a family. And that's a personal story that I have. And he's 35 now, and he's doing very well. He's actually I love all my children. I have 5 of them, and he was my baby, okay? So I would encourage everybody to look at Holt International right now, and you can see all the countries they work in, everywhere from Mongolia to China to Vietnam, not just Asian countries, but Slavic countries. And if you know a family that is interested in adoption, I would tell you the whole adoption experience is one of the best experiences that you can ever have. And also, if you can't adopt, they have sponsorships for children. And I would really encourage everybody to take a look at their website, Holt International, and I would encourage you to contribute and help the Holt mission, because Holt was founded here in Oregon, okay? They pioneered intercountry adoption. They changed laws at the federal level. This was Bertha and Harry Holt, and it became about because of the Korean War. And they went to a church meeting one night, and they realized that they had all these orphans, okay? And what were they going to do? So they actually started an entity it really started with that. And now it's blossomed throughout the United States. So it's intercountry, it's in our own country. So I would ask people to really support them in the wake of some of the pain that we're going through with what we've dealt with Asian American and Pacific Islander individuals feeling frightened right now. The other thing, and I'm sorry I'm going so long, but I just feel like I need to talk about this. I was in American Field Service in 1970. The American Field Service was a group. They were ambulance drivers in World War I, and they believed that the pathway to world peace was to do cultural interchanges with students. So today, they are known as an international cultural exchange program. It's been around for over 70 years. I applied in high school, and I got sent to Miagao, Iloilo, in the Philippines, okay? And I had a Filipino family of 10 children. I was in the barrios. It was kind of a life-changing experience. But fast forward to today, I am still in touch with my Filipino family. I consider them close. I consider my Filipino family my sisters, my brothers. I visit them. They visit me. My sister's grandson is at the, he's in college here. And recently she asked me to send me photos of my parents because one of her sons is in an Asian American class down in California, and the story of how they got to this country. Well, they got to this country because my mother and my father sponsored them to come here. And they could not have gotten into this country otherwise. And back in the day when I was just a stupid kid, 16, 17, I didn't think it was any big deal. Oh, good, mom and dad, they're doing this. But it was. They were really responsible for these people, for my family succeeding. And they were physicians, they were nurses, engineers, have done nothing but being upstanding members of our culture and society. And my parents went out of their way to make sure that they had homes, that they had employment, that they had everything they needed. And I just found out recently, talking to my Filipino sister, that, I've told everyone how close I was to my grandmother and how I used to be trotted around with her everywhere. Well, when I was in college, my grandmother trotted around with my Filipino sister. And so she's telling me the same kind of stories about my grandmother that I grew up with, and I hadn't realized it until I talked to her recently. So I'm telling my personal story because really, this violence just needs to stop. It's been a tough week. I worry about my son. I worry about my Filipino family. I worry about all of us. And it's time to try and treat each other with respect and love and realize that racism of any kind has no part of who we are and what we should do. And I know everybody here that's here, and I hope everybody that is listening, I would suspect that they agree with me 100%. And last thing I'm going to say is I still to this day am a member of the Oregon-China Council. I've been to China more than once. The people are beautiful, the country's beautiful, and they are one of our major trade partners. So let's just give peace a chance, shall we? Okay? Could we just back away from this and stop the violence? So thank you, Commissioner. That's my personal story, and I'm sorry if I took too much time.
I don't think so.
All right,
I think
thank
it was
you.
very heartfelt, and I think it needed to be said. Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Scholl, you're up next.
Yes, good morning, and thank you to those of you who took time today to testify. On housing, Administrator Schmidt mentioned the cluster housing development here in Clackamas. I had the pleasure of touring it last Thursday by invitation from Paul Edgar. The project's located on Southeast Tolbert Street in Clackamas. It is a very outstanding project that gives safe housing and independence to adults with autism. And I commend Ann Wilkinson, the director. She's one of two support staff that live full-time on the project. I encourage commissioners and staff to visit the project, and as we move forward to address our housing shortages and our homeless issue, this is a good example of effective solution. On COVID, as our health officer said this morning, we are at 98.7 per 100,000 COVID cases in the county. That's barely inside the moderate risk level. My concern is that businesses are opening up, bringing back on employees, increasing inventory, and I do not want to see them required to go back to a higher risk level. We need to work with the governor on that, because that is not going to be conducive to opening up our economy. I know we got to be careful, but we also have to think about the businesses of this county. On schools, I want to make a special thank you to Mrs. Reardon for your testimony today, ma'am. My thoughts yesterday as I prepared for today were, Oregon ranks second to last in getting our kids back to school. The CDC has announced that there's no significant increase in the spread of COVID when distance between students is decreased from 6 feet to 3 feet. Many of our schools who are back in session are doing that part-time. And that part-time schedule is very difficult on parents to manage careers, transportation, and childcare. All schools, not all schools, but many schools in our neighboring states have been open 5 days a week for the last few months. Our kids cannot wait to get back to in-person, full-time school. Now, many people in the county think that the Board of Commissioners can take action to get our schools opened up. That's not true. It's a matter of the Oregon Department of Education, your school board, your school district, your teachers union, and the governor's office. So I encourage every parent in Clackamas County to contact your state legislator, your state senator, school board, teachers union, and the governor's office, and let them know we must get our children back in school, period. On the Veterans Advisory Council, a few weeks ago we had very credible testimony from veterans recommending that the Veterans Advisory Council be disbanded. Administrator Schmidt asked for time to look into the matter. He's done that. We had a meeting on Tuesday. Today's going to be another VAC meeting, which Administrator Schmidt's going to attend. I will not attend it, as per his request and the request of some other veterans. And then on Tuesday, we'll hear from Administrator Schmidt on his recommendations. And then I'll just take action, whatever that might be. It might be none. It might be zero action. So that's where we're at on the VAC. And thank you very much, Administrator Schmidt, for your help on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Savas, you're up next.
Yeah, thank you. Quite a few well-said comments today from my colleagues. I appreciate all of that. I always am reminded how similar my family and my experience growing up was with Commissioner Schrader's, even though they were on opposite parts of the country. Hers in New York and mine in Southern California, where we grew up in racially diverse areas, schools, and families. And I have a Chinese family and a Philippine family of mine, so I always think about them, especially during these times. So, I guess the point of my bringing this up a little bit about the fact that we grew up, I think our perspectives and our experiences are different because of that diverse childhood and growing up. And, I think that I didn't really experience or see that much in the way of racism because it was, some of it was directed our way, but I've got white privilege. I'm white. I get that. My brothers and were darker than I was, and when I think back, I think there probably were instances where perhaps there was some bias that was directed their way. But all to say that I think how we grow up in the world we grow up and the people that we're surrounded by when we grow up impact our lives forever, and that's unique and different for all of us. So what I really wanted to talk about today was we were asked to make some comments about what our priorities were, and it's going to be published in our Clackamas News. And mine was about recovery, and I know that's important to each of my colleagues on the commission as we recover, hopefully soon, from the COVID emergency, and as we are recovering from both the forest fires and the ice storm, and certainly been a lot of racial issues as well. So in a way, that has been a very hot and important topic throughout our year that's impacted it and overlaid really the reflection of a number of things that have occurred in the county, in the region, in the country, and so forth. When we talk about businesses, there's something I've always tried to do, especially when I put it in writing, that it's not about the businesses as businesses. And as a business owner, I think I can say this, in my colleagues would understand this, that they're employers. I was an employer, and my second family was frankly my employees. And so when we talk about businesses, I think when we want businesses to succeed or stay open or stay in our county and be successful, I instantly think of the employees more so than the business. So I want to make sure that when we talk about that, we're mindful about if that business fails, those employees have nowhere to go, or they're in the unemployment lines, or maybe they are successful in finding new employment. But we are at a point in time of almost double the unemployment rate that we had pre-COVID. I think that's important to say, and that how we assist either with its CARES Act funding or this new funding that's coming our way, how we assist the businesses to get back open, to create an environment that they can be successful with that, and that boils down to cost. And as a business owner, most of my adult life, I can just tell you that everything, you're impacted by every cost, and it affects your bottom line. It affects your bottom line, it affects your ability to pay wages or to hire new people or to grow your business. And we are really challenged here in Clackamas County. I've talked to a number of businesses that are actually reconsidering really what they're going to do, if they're going to stay open or they're going to reopen or they want to grow. And the question I've been getting actually for over 10 years is, geez, I need to grow. Where do I do that? Where in Clackamas County can I grow my business? And we don't really have a lot of land to do that with and develop land. There's not a lot of opportunities for businesses to grow. So, which is a little bit different than some of our neighboring counties. So with that said, the challenges of affordability, the challenges of some of the legislative actions that put more financial burdens or taxes or fees on them, it affect them more than anyone. And if it is a deterrent to a business and that business employs 50 or 100 people, those are 50 to 100 people that potentially are not going to be employed. And that is something that we got to be mindful of. So again, I think the point I'm trying to really make here again is just simply that businesses are employers and the employees that they employ are important. They're the fabric of our community. They're our brothers and our sisters. They're friends. They're our neighbors. They're everywhere. And they're moms and dads, and they feed their kids, and they care for others. So it is a very fully big picture. It is part of our society, our fabric of our society. So I think that's why it's so important. So anything that we can do in our recovery, when we sit down as a commission and talk about how we're going to put the money we're going to receive from the federal government to work and put it in a way that helps that recovery is important. And getting our schools back in order, our children back to school in a safe way, is terribly important. And we heard from our staff this morning on the COVID situation, the report, the vaccinations, and my questions and questions from my colleague as well. with regard to the, the increase in the numbers of the COVID cases, which could perhaps jeopardize our reopening, perhaps slow down our recovery. That it's really, really important that we message, each of us, and that's going to be my closing statement, is that whether you've got the vaccine or not, you can still be part of the transmission of it to others if you somehow come in contact with someone who has it. And of course, you won't be affected ideally with the vaccine working. But we got to be mindful that we need to take the precautions so we can get out of this until we have herd immunity, till we have a good percentage of the population vaccinated. We still got to be careful. And if we're not, we're going to go backwards. And I'm watching the numbers all the time. And as I mentioned earlier in the business meeting, and we're at risk of going backwards. And it's going to affect those businesses. And I'm not sure that some of them, if they're forced to slow down or close or lay their employees off again, if they'll survive. And that's a lot of jobs out there, and we can't make the situation worse. So please be mindful, take the precautions, just take them. There's no risk at avoiding risk. There's no risk at taking the precautions, the social distancing and wearing the mask until we are nowhere out of this situation. And the numbers are speak for themselves right now. So to my friends and constituents and colleagues in Clackamas County, I hope you're all well. I hope that spring break goes as well and safe as possible. And Chair, that concludes my comments for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, Commissioner Savas. I have a nice tribute I'm going to make at the end of my comments, but I'd like to say something that I've never said before because I'm really not an emotional person, and I grew up not expressing emotions because that's what I was taught. But I will say this, I am extremely thankful and grateful that I was elected as chair of the Clackamas County Commission. It is a job that I wanted. It is a job that I sought. It is a job that I worked for over a year and a half and expended a considerable amount of my own money to get this job. However, since I took office on January 4 up to now, I could have never expected, nor any chair could have ever expected, to be able to deal with the amount and severity of the problems that has been dealt our way. I have tried my best to maneuver through extremely volatile situations and people with the best that my leadership has provided me, being a citizen and resident of Clackamas County for 64 years. I was born in Oregon City, and I'm blessed to be able to work in Oregon City. I'm a fourth-generation farmer, and I'm proud of those roots. And so we all learn. And these times have been extremely trying, and it does not fall on deaf ears when I say we have 3 declared emergencies in this county in 11 months, and we are not out of any of them. We're trying to maneuver our budgets as best we can, provide the services when we can, but we only know what we know. And I don't know what I don't know. So when you're communicating with your elected officials, please offer your criticism and kindness and respect and compassion, and we will receive it in the same way. However, when we have had the huge amount of vile comments come over our phone and in our emails, it is very hard for any of us to maneuver because we have feelings too. And that's why each one of us got elected, because the people who voted for us recognized those feelings in each one of us. And we're all different, and we come from different sectors, and that is what is important in the county. You know, Martha and I went on a field trip yesterday, and I say that with the greatest affection because we had an opportunity to visit a nonprofit here in Oregon City that is not funded at all with government assistance. And this was a woman who several years ago realized the need for children ages 0 through 18 who needed clothes. And these are kids who were homeless or couch potatoes, or one of the parents lost a job, but they're still together, but there's just not enough money for new clothes. So she has gone out of her way to create this nonprofit called the Bloomin' Boutique. And she goes to a lot of manufacturers and private sector people, business people in the county, and she provides clothes to children of all ages, brand new clothes. Because a lot of them come in with tattered slippers that they've been wearing all year. And she provides 2 pairs of shoes to them. Each kid gets 2 pairs of shoes, 2 pairs of pants, 5 shirts, a zippered hoodie, toiletries, a bag, and bedding. And she told a story about a family who had a mother who the father was gone, and 5 children, ages 3, 4, 7, and 12, and the mother were all sleeping in the same bed. And she says, I visited them, I just broke down and cried. And I went to one of my friends who owns a mattress store, and I said, I need 2 mattresses delivered to this, and he did it. And she says, I went out and bought bedding. And the kids took care of the beds. And then she says a little bit later, they sent me this picture where the kids had taken the time to make their own beds, expertly pulled the covers up, put their pillows on it, and the mom took a picture of them reading their books on their own bed. And they had not been able to do that for years. And there were so many heartfelt stories that this woman did. So Martha and I are going to help them out in any way we can. Martha's going to cook, and I'm going to serve, because I am not challenging Martha's cooking. And we're going to have a fundraiser probably this summer. And it's a proposal, Martha and I are working on a proposal we're going to bring to this Board of County Commissioners, because this is all private sector money. And you can only go to the private sector so much. But I tell you, we have generous people in this county. She's raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, and she'll take $1,000, and she'll get about $7,000 worth of stuff for it. And it is tremendous. And it's a closet you can go in. She deals mainly with agencies and not so much private individuals, because it's safer. But it's a Bloomin' Boutique, and
They're doing a fundraiser.
yeah, and they're doing a fundraiser Saturday, May 1st at Ceres Farm and Garden Center on Forsyth Road at 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. A portion of the proceeds from the plant sales will be donated to Bloomin' Boutique. A donation barrel is also on site to collect new clothes, all sizes, boys, girls, and infants, K through 12, new. Because when a kid gets a new pair of shoes and a new outfit, they're shining. And that's what we want out of our youth. Thank you very much.
And everybody's invited to dinner today.
Everybody's invited,
to
yeah. Christina, we have a photo. I was recently notified of the passing of a woman named Mary Ann Hill, a longtime resident and public servant of Clackamas County. She was integral in the creation of the Mount Hood Cultural Center and Government Camp. Today, I will read a short tribute. Mary Ann Hill was born on October 21, 1921, and passed away February 19, 2021, 100 years old. She moved with her family to Government Camp on Mount Hood in 1929. Her father, Charlie Hill, built Hill's Place restaurant, known for the juicy hamburgers and huckleberry pie and that friendly black bear cubs. Her father fashioned her a pair of skis, and true to her Norwegian roots, she became an excellent skier by following the many Norwegian advanced skiers that were drawn to Mount Hood. Mary Ann was a fierce competitor in the ski races through high school and college. She was a Portland Winter Sports Festival princess in 1939. She graduated from Pacific University in 1944 with a degree in education. She continued ski racing with Cascade Ski Club of Government Camp. She competed in the 1947 Olympic trials in Sun Valley, just 2 weeks out of a broken leg cast. She became a certified ski instructor, pin number 7, and then a ski instructor examiner at Mount Hood. She co-founded Ski Yenti Ski Club in 1955 as a club for women that were serious about ski racing. Ski Yenti today is the oldest all-women's club in the United States. The annual club championship race is the Marianne Cup race. She was recognized for her contribution to Mount Hood skiing and the winner, listen to this, of the 1990 King Winter. Her last major contribution to Mount Hood skiing was co-founding the Mount Hood Cultural Center and Museum and serves as its first president and eventually director emeritus. This museum is recognized as a World Ski Museum by the International Ski History Association. Marianne was involved in civic and community affairs for decades. She served on many boards and commissions in Clackamas County, including the Clackamas County Planning Commission, Chamber of Commerce, Government Camp Recreation Association, Government Camp Community Planning Organization, and the Government Camp Urban Renewal Advisory Committee. The family suggests donations to the Mount Hood Cultural Center and Museum in memory of Marianne Hill. My only regret is I didn't get to meet her. And with that in mind, we are adjourned for today.